And I just Googled his name. It was Vernon Adams Jr.
God, Vernon Adams Jr. Yeah. Vernon Adams Jr., who, I mean, he had a long path. And for him to finally succeed was a great story. But I just wonder, will he be able to build on that success? Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 26 of the Underrated Podcast, the podcast where we talk to you about sports or rant about a bunch of stuff that we think should be ranted about. Today, we have a special guest. He is a radio host for TSN 1050 Game Day, and he's a writer at CFL.ca. And we've heard, based on pretty evident sources, that you're a huge wine enthusiast. I mean, it doesn't really affect us at this age, but getting into
no, it doesn't.
May get to us. Matthew Cauz, how are you? Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yeah, you're a little bit young for wine. I didn't get into it until my late 20s anyway.
Is that wine podcast? I think it's about wine, is it, or like just a bunch of interesting stuff? Is that something you started because like you wanted to like express your love for wine?
It was really more, I love hearing people's stories, and I find winemakers, wine owners always have cool stories, and then sommeliers, people that work in the wine business. You hear some really cool stuff, and I've been studying wine for years, so it just seemed like a natural thing to do, just to go out and hear people's interesting stories.
So do you have like wine influencers on the podcast?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have winemakers, people that own wineries, people that sell wine, people that work in restaurants and bars that are like what they call sommeliers, and some wine writers and things like that. So I haven't had your classic like wine social media wine influencer as of yet. I certainly would.
Like a big winemaker, like a owner of like a winery or anything like that.
Yeah, like the guy who makes wine for Francis Ford Coppola, the famous movie director. I had him on, so that would be one that maybe people would know.
And yeah, so like kind of shift away from the wine, like we're going into your like early career. We know that you started off lots of relationship with the CFL in your early career. Are you still writing for them, or like do you still follow the league? Are you still you still writing the documents on them?
Yeah, still writing for CFL.ca. It's a little different right now because usually at this point we'd be writing about training camp and the start of the season. So, much like everyone else in sports media, we shifted into more interesting stories and just doing, anniversaries and just stuff like that. But I'm still writing for the league.
So do you cover topics like if like breaking news comes out, like some maybe a quarterback from the BC Lions like broke his leg or something like that?
Yeah.
Would you still write on like the kind of breaking news to give the fans?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would think more of the real journalists will do that kind of stuff. But yeah, absolutely. I would be writing about that. If for the BC Lions, I'd be Mike Riley. If Mike Riley broke his leg.
And is there something that maybe started off your love for CFL or like your CFL writing career, like something important?
I just love, I love football, all forms of it. I used to do radio play-by-play when I was at McMaster for the local football team. And then I knew some of the people from CFL.ca, and they reached out to me to ask if I'd be interested in writing columns for them. I do a lot of different stuff, a little off the wall. I don't do this. I don't like report on one game. And I'm not the guy who breaks stories. I'm the one who takes the week that happened and tries to turn it into a fascinating, different story.
So you did mention you follow all like the football leagues. Do you have a favorite NFL team?
New York Giants. I've been a New York Giants fan for many decades. Yeah.
Do you you got a favorite player on there? I was gonna say Devin Singletary, but I remember he's on the Bills.
Yeah, Devin Singletary's on the Bills.
Similar clothes, but not the same team.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the same state. We can go there. The guy you would never heard of, probably Lawrence Taylor, one of the greatest defensive players of all time. And, of course, I got to have love for Eli Manning, who beat Brady twice.
Here's a question, though. Don't the Giants play in East Rutherford, though?
Yes. Yeah, they play in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Yeah.
I think but they moved. Like, that was their old stadium. They're now at MetLife. I don't know if it's
MetLife's MetLife's in East Rutherford, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so they're not in the nice part of New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not in like the big fancy New York, where like the Yankees and the Mets or the Rangers play.
Yeah, they're not at Madison Square Gardens.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of maybe Odell Beckham before he moved to the Browns, and he could potentially come back to a New York team, maybe like the Jets or the Giants?
I appreciated the athleticism there, but I mean, he was really good. They never won when he put up big numbers, and I'm not blaming him for it. It's always a combination of factors. But put it this way: when Beckham left, it wasn't a big deal. The Giants are in rebuild mode. Paying all that money for the receiver didn't make sense.
So coming back to the CFL, was there maybe like an influence in your early life that helped you develop your love for sports, specifically maybe football?
The influence was my father, who's still alive. When you say was, people assume, oh, they're gone. My dad was a sports writer, covered baseball, horse racing, covered the Maple Leafs the last time they won the Stanley Cup back in 1967. So I certainly got a lot of it from him.
So you kind of took his writing skills and you kind of brought it into your own life, and then now you're here.
Yeah, well, I don't have his writing skills. He's written books and won awards. I'm not that. I'm the fun, goofy guy. But certainly my love of sports. Also, I did theater, so I love just performing and broadcasting. So it kind of made sense that eventually I'd get on air. And I prefer radio over TV.
Would you ever consider writing a book about just sports?
No, I'm not good enough. Like literally, I think it's important in life to know what you're good at, know your strengths and limitations. I'm great at talking, great at broadcast, or good, whatever. Everyone have their own opinion about my level of aptitude. But no, I would never write a book. I don't mind writing articles, blogs, or things like that, but I'll leave books for the smart people.
I remember I heard of a book, or at least it was circulating online, where it was a book that started right in the middle of it, like right in the middle of like the pages, and it was like he kind of said like, all right, I get the money for writing a bigger book, you get the joy of having pages on each side.
That's funny. That's a good idea.
All right. Yeah. Now moving into radio hosting for TSN 1050, when did you think that making the switch to radio would be the next step?
Well, I had worked in TV for many years, producing a show called Off the Record on TSN. So I did that from like 2000 to 2007. Then I left to go do on-air stuff for a smaller TV station called Sun TV, and did hosted TV shows there for a couple of years. Then I left briefly to go work for a wine company, sales, right as TSN Radio got started. And some of the people that put it together, they were putting together, asked if I'd be interested to do a weekend show. So it started there back in 2011. I hosted and produced a whole bunch of different shows, and now I'm doing my own show from Monday to Friday.
Yeah, and we have had many people that have in the past hosted or produced Off the Record, which is kind of cool. Like we're having everybody come on and they're like, yeah, we've hosted Off the Record. Was that a big part of your career? Was that a big confidence booster?
Oh yeah, producing for Off the Record was great. And I mean, doing that show, got me onto the radio because people knew who I was, knew what I could do, my work ethic, and just, my ability to broadcast. So yeah, I mean, it's the most influential job I had. I had it from like 25 until, I was like 32. So yeah, that was the biggest influence of any job I've had.
That's awesome.
Was it a big change about writing your thoughts to talking about sports, or?
No, because like my theater background, where you do have to do a lot of writing and scripting and things like that, and also because I've done a lot of producing in my background, it all sort of falls into it. So yeah, my background certainly helped to do radio, to be able to write, come up with my own ideas, my own agenda for the show. And also I come from a history background as well, which is all about, you got to be able to research. And so it's funny, a lot of the stuff I did in university kind of helped me a ton with my job now. And at the time, I didn't even realize that I would be, working in radio full time.
Looking back 6 years from now, where you made the move to radio, if you had to pursue one for the rest of your career, which one would you choose, radio or writing?
We know you did mention this earlier, but we want kind of like a more maybe in-depth reason as to why you would choose one or the other.
I'll choose like between radio and TV or even writing. I'm always going to choose radio first. One, because writing is the hardest one of those three. I don't want to do that. What I like about radio is you can be more creative. You have more time to talk, to explore ideas, to perform. It's almost like being in theater. TV, there's a lot of waiting. You're always rushed. You don't have a lot of time. You got people saying, okay, you got to go to break. You got to throw to this board, throw to this highlight, throw to this athlete and their clip of their being interviewed. So it's very rush. With radio, you get to relax and explore. So that's what I love.
And like you obviously said radio. Like, did you take the skills that you use in radio to come up with your podcast?
Yep, 100%. Because you got to be a self-starter. You got to be able to produce. You got to be able to think, what are the right questions? What are the most interesting topics, and get to the heart of it. And whether you're on air or producing, that's sort of the essence of it. So yeah, it absolutely translated into the Wine podcast, where it's like, okay, why is this guest interesting? What are the questions I can ask to get the best stories out of him or her?
That's awesome. And like moving into kind of like the CFL, we listened to an interview you had with, I think it's Rob Peterson or Ron Peterson, one of the two. You were on his show, his podcast, and you said that, or he said that you wrote a lot about NFL or CFL records, sorry. And you said that there was always going to be one that was never going to be broken, and that was the Matt Dunnigan 713 yards and passing in a game.
Yeah.
Like what do you think is going to happen now? Like maybe is going to be a future quarterback that might potentially break that, or is that a break like nobody's ever going to do it again?
I can't see it getting broken because, everything has to be just right. It has to be a game where both teams are in it. If you're up by a lot, you're not going to be throwing the ball. If you're down by a lot, you're going to be throwing for garbage yards, but the other team, if they've got a big lead, they're just going to run out the clock. They're going to bleed it. Like, you need everything to be going perfect with both teams scoring a lot. With you've got to hit on all your throws. You've got to have incredible pass protection. You also have to not run the ball, so you can't have any running game. So there's so many things that have to be involved. And like in the NFL, the record is mid-500s. And you can go 4 or 5 seasons without a 500-yard game. So I just can't see it.
Maybe could there be an opportunity of maybe not breaking it in the CFL, but maybe place in college? College are very high-scoring games. Guys get a lot of opportunity to
yes, I could see it. Yeah, I could absolutely see it in college because it's so easy. If you're good on a college football field, there's always going to be 5 or 6 below average defensive players. They're fine for college, but you're never going to see them in the NFL. So you could always find and exploit the slow guys. So yeah, and in college, they throw all over the place. They're a lot more experimental. You see it in the Big 12. You see it sometimes in the Pac-10. The air raid teams like in Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So yeah, if it was good to be anywhere, I could see it in college.
Did you think that LSU could have done it with how much they kind of passed into the offensive talent they had?
I think they would run the ball too much. I think Les Miles, he still wants some semblance of balance. Also, SEC defenses, I don't think you're going to get to that number. And Joe Burrow's incredible. This has got to be some Big 10, 2 schools where it's just 5 wide shotgun, and we're just going to throw it all, and we don't care.
And you see a lot of those quarterbacks that came to the NFL because of their passing skills. Maybe not someone like Lamar Jackson who came because of how good he can play the ball no matter where he's going, passing, running, wherever he's going. Maybe a guy that has like a bazooka of an arm. Maybe a guy that got drafted like Patrick Mahomes in college. Maybe he could have had the opportunity to get surrounded.
Aaron Rodgers would be a good one too to kind of do that with, to kind of have those passing yards, because that guy can throw Hail Marys just for never.
Oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers is perfect. The only problem with Lamar Jackson is he might run the ball. And if you're going to think about breaking that record, you have to break it down. You only have a finite number of drives, and within those drives, number of plays. So if you've got, say, 90 plays, you're going to have to be throwing the ball on like 70 of them. And so 70 of those dropbacks, you run the ball once, well, that's just one less opportunity. It's got to be the accurate cannon-armed quarterback who just stands in the pocket with a good left and right tackle, giving him time.
And now that I think about it, the record is actually insane, because I was just thinking about when I play Madden, like when you put it on like the easy mode just to crush a team, you only get like 500, 600 passing yards. And it's still insane that you see 700 in a real game where you're not facing easy, where you're not on the easy thing trying to crush a team. You're just playing the game for wins, and then you get 700 passing yards. So I think it's kind of insane that it's
kind of like that. It's kind of like that record. I think it was Darryl Sittler that had like 10 points in a game or something, and that record probably will never be broken at any point. Just because the fact that you need to have an insanely good game, an insanely good team, and B, you have to be facing a team that's just tanking for a high draft pick, and you have to have some form of goalie that's just not on his game.
But you also need your opponent to also be scoring a lot, because eventually hockey code is going to take over. If you're up by a big score, the Stars will play fewer minutes. You're not going to shoot as much. You're just going to be playing keep away in the third period.
Yeah. All right, now let's move into what this whole situation is right now. And the CFL has talks of saying that their most likely option is just going to be canceling the season outright. And do you think that currently, will the CFL be majorly affected by this current pandemic?
Oh, yeah. It's already been devastating, and it will be even more so, because beyond the Argonauts, who are owned by Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, these teams aren't owned by billionaires like you get in the other professional sports. So they also don't get the same amount of TV revenue as the other sports. And then on top of that, they are even more gate-driven than the NHL. They need the fans. They need everyone in the arenas. Also, a lot of these teams don't make money anyway. A lot of them break even. In the prairies, they make more money than they do, say, in Ontario or in Quebec. And the BC Lions, they lose money as well. So, yeah, this is going to be – it's going to impact the CFL more than baseball or hockey or basketball.
I just kind of have a question here. Do you think that this will affect the plans for an expansion team in the Atlantic, kind of in Atlantic Canada?
Yep, I think it pushes it back. And like if you didn't have this and you didn't have coronavirus, then that sort of momentum will allow it. I think this. I mean, it already is a slow process to get that maritime team, which we need. But yeah, this absolutely pushes it back.
Matthew brought up before we actually started recording that he saw a video. I think it was the AHL. Was it the AHL?
It was the AHL. Yeah.
That someone was doing a report on the AHL and saying that they could possibly go under and just stop for a few seasons to gain back that money. Could the CFL potentially see that happen?
I don't think that'll happen because there's only 9 teams, and so I mean the AHL's got so many more than that. I don't think you'll see that. I think it'll find a way. There is still enough rich people out there to support the league, to give it at least a bridge cash infusion, just to get them through this year. They may get money from the government because the CFL really is 9 medium-sized businesses that employ a lot of people. So no, I don't think you're going to get doom and gloom where it's going to be gone, but it's going to be scary.
Yeah. Kind of moving on. If the CFL survives this, who do you think are some of the teams that will contend for a Grey Cup after this if the season kind of goes through?
I think you're going to have – I think Hamilton still will. They got upset in the Grey Cup. They played a horrible game. I think it's they're going to contend. It's kind of hard to – I don't see really anyone else in the East being able to do it, just because everything is still just about the quality of quarterback. And then in the West, it's we'll see with Winnipeg. I mean, Zach Collaros has got to be able to stay healthy. So we'll see with the Bombers. I think it's going to be Hamilton. I think it's always going to be Calgary. And I think it's going to be and I think the BC Lions, I think they bounce back. They're going to have I think they have a better year. But yeah, Calgary, Hamilton, Winnipeg. I think those are your 3 big ones, though.
Now, do you think that, because once again, knowing for my love of the city of Montreal, do you think that the Alouettes have any chance after they kind of upset really everyone after they did kind of as well as they did? Or do you think that they're just kind of have a couple seasons just riding the wave until they get up there?
I think the best thing that happened to them is they got new ownership, and I forget the guy's name, but seems really just impassioned for it. So I think that's great for the Alouettes. And right now, I don't this is embarrassing. My brain is going on me. The quarterback for Montreal.
Yeah.
I'll remember it in a second.
Hold on, I can Google it here. Hold on.
He had a really good year. Like, he had this, he gave Montreal something they haven't in age since Anthony Calvillo, stability at quarterback. But if you go and look at the numbers, he had a lot of passes that probably should have been intercepted. I could see a bit of a regression. But, I mean, Montreal should be pretty good, but I could see a bit of a regression.
And I just Googled his name. It was Vernon Adams Jr.
God, Vernon Adams Jr. Yeah. Vernon Adams Jr., who, I mean, he had a long path. And for him to finally succeed was a great story. But I just wonder, will he be able to build on that success?
Yeah.
And it's weird because I've heard, like, when I used to actually watch the CFL, it's weird not to hear the Ottawa Redblacks come up because they used to be a super hot team going back to back.
But they lost everyone.
They fell off. They fell off after that 1 year they were contending.
Well, I mean, they still had maybe the greatest Grey Cup upset of all time, and Henry Burris had the greatest single game I've ever seen a quarterback play for one single game. But they lose Trevor Harris. They lose, their top receiver, their entire offense got gutted. They had horrible quarterback play last year.
Yeah. Yeah, from what I remember seeing, they just kind of just got demolished and they were just being run over.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, no worries at all. If you ever need someone to yammer, it's all good. Love talking sports, and I mean, I won't be talking wine with you guys, but certainly sports journalism, and I think what you guys are doing are great. Keep it up, and again, damn good equipment.
And for all the football fans out there that keep telling me they're not going to listen until they see football, here you go. Here's your football episode where you can listen.
Here's your football.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.